I wanted to, first of all, see how you are doing, Ian. I know you are somewhere around the globe, but how are you doing? How's everyone doing?
That's very kind of you. Yes, I'm in the UK at the moment, and we, like many other places in the world, are in lockdown. Not as severe as some places. I'm still allowed to go out and go for a stroll to get some exercise, but it's still, as I described it to someone else the other day, I think the novelty is wearing off and the sense of house arrest is coming into play. So. It's tricky for everyone, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you so much again for for the interview. And obviously, this is for the National Conference of Bar Presidents. And we're really curious, we're doing these short interviews. One of the questions that's come up is, LexisNexis is such a big global international company. So
Yeah.
what has LexisNexis been doing for their clients during the pandemic? Maybe break it down to US and then globally.
Well, I can start with the global because it's been the case that we are a global company, and our customers are all around the world. And what do we do as a company? Well, we are a massive information provider, and so what we did very, very quickly after the pandemic struck was that our teams all around the world gathered relevant information together. All kinds of useful information, and made it freely available. And that's what we did. You can look that up on the various pages around the world. You just look up LexisNexis and COVID-19 or free information, whatever you want to do a search for, and you'll find the information that we have, that the teams around the world have made available.
Yeah, and we've been working with Afsoon to put your materials on NCBP website as a resource to our members. The other thing that I was going to ask is, I know you have the rule of law, and you've been very, very focused on the rule of law. And how has LexisNexis efforts on the rule of law been affected by the pandemic?
Well, yes. I mean, they've been affected because our approach to the rule of law has always been strategically to try and what we call deploy our core skills. Yeah. So, in other words, the strategy of helping to advance the rule of law is to try and take what we're good at and deploy them in projects that we would do ourselves and with partners in order to advance the rule of law. Well, of course, that's very tricky when everyone's in lockdown.
Right.
So, we can do what we can do. So to the extent that it's possible to advance a project online, of course, the teams will do that. So, for example, helping to consolidate the laws of a country, which are some of the rule of law projects that we do. Some of that can be done online, some of the editorial work and various things. But some of it actually needs our folks to be on the ground, in the country concerned, looking in their libraries, looking at their materials to see what they've actually got. Because sometimes, we've been to help countries and they don't know what their laws are. We've had to search around in, different libraries and court offices and various things to try and accumulate all kinds of different materials so that we can create consolidated laws. So to the extent that it actually needs people on the ground, of course, that's had to come to a stop. But to the extent we can keep working on projects that can be done remotely, then of course, we'll continue to do that. But some of the rule of law work that we do as well involves things like judge training, for example, or things like that. So, to the extent that we can still do the educational work that we do as part of our rule of law program, we'll continue to do that, online as well.
Yeah, and that's really important, Ian, and thanks for letting us know. Now, the other question that I have is, I think we've discovered that when this pandemic happened, a lot of our court system, not federal, but more state courts, are not really prepared for this pandemic.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, there's something that, LexisNexis can do as part of their judicial education training, whatever that could incorporate something to that effect.
Well, definitely, there's a lot that can be done, because many of the courts all over are still being run, or still using processes, I should say, that haven't changed for 100 years. Yeah,
Right.
We literally still put ink stamps onto pieces of paper. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you kind of say it out loud, it sounds funny, but we're all used to that. Yeah, seeing the court issue a stamp on a piece of paper is unchanged for 100 years plus. Yeah. Well, the question is, first of all, can we do that more effectively and efficiently through the use of technology? I think the answer to that must be yes. I mean, we haven't even discussed the extent to which blockchain could be used, for example, as an identifier for court documents, so that they are, unimpeachable court documents because they have a blockchain identifier on them, for example. Another thing is cameras in the courts. Yeah, is there a way that we can, use technology to give people greater access to the court system? And I think that's a really important point, because what we don't want to do when we switch to remote working, as we have done with regard to a court hearing, is that court hearing, if it's online, if it's a virtual hearing, tends to be viewed only by the people who are actually involved in the case. Yeah. So in essence, what you've done is you've taken what was previously a public hearing and you've made it de facto private. Yeah. So I think we have to work on ways that if we are going to see a permanent increase in online hearings, we have to find a way to still give the public access to be able to view it. So, in the old cliche, justice can be seen to be done as well.
Yeah, that's very important. And you're right. That is something that the court system will have to grapple with, especially if we're in this pandemic for until 2022. I mean, and you've got
the technology is there. I mean, let's be clear about it.
The
technology is there to do all of this stuff. And the people who know how to run the technology, if I may say so, LexisNexis, for example, are also there. Yeah, the capability is there to be able to do this. What's needed is, is the court system to be able to move forward and think about doing things in new ways. That's where we need to get to.
Yeah, and I think I have to say that state courts, the court systems, really are looking for guidance on how to do something like that, so that it doesn't, after we get past this and another crisis comes up, at least they will be ready at that point.
Yeah. Well, the question will be, to what extent do we want to make some permanent changes? Do we think, for example, that we can get more efficiency out of the court system if we did many more online, virtual court hearings, for example? Is that a more effective way? Could we get more hearings through the court system, for example? Or do we simply want to go back to the way it was before the pandemic, but simply say, okay, let's deploy technology in different ways to support in-person the court process? It's another, you kind of have to make the high-level decision first, where do you want to take this? And then you can kind of make a decision about what type of technology support or other process support do you need to implement that decision. It's very important that the technology doesn't drive the decision. We have to make sure that we know where we want to go first, and we can use technology to support the direction of travel.
Although it is very interesting with what we're going through, it seems like technology is really the driving force right now, and we're just reacting to what is happening.
Yeah, and as I say, that's the worry, because as I said a moment ago, we switched to online hearings, but effectively we've shut out the public. Yeah, we've shut out the public from being able to watch justice being done. And I don't think for the long term that's a very good place for us to be.
So Ian, let's switch. There's one article that was actually that you did on the rule of law, which was actually very fascinating, and we've put it on our website. Really, really great. But maybe you can talk a little bit about that article for our viewers, so that they can go to our website and LexisNexis website to really read the article.
Yeah, so that's the first one. I've recently published a second one.
We'd love to have a copy of that.
Yeah, so the first one, I think, was about the importance of how the rule of law should not be sacrificed for the sake of expediency, for the sake of crisis, for the sake of the short term. It's very tempting to do that, but there isn't a need to do that. It's not a necessary consequence of a crisis. Yeah, we can still support the rule of law. We can still follow the rule of law. We can still do those things that are important, even in the midst of a crisis. The idea of shortcuts and decisions made for expediency should be about allowing bureaucracy to be bypassed, not the rule of law. Yeah, and so one of the challenges, for example, that we face is that it's very easy to give a government authority, a department, a member of the cabinet, whoever it is, some kind of discretionary power, yeah, to do something, because the temptation is to say, right, we need quick decisions made. Let's just give the power to make the decision to person X in a position of authority or in the government. That's fine. You can do that. But that doesn't stop that person's decision being subject to judicial review, being subject to the law. Yeah. The danger comes when you say, right, we're giving that person discretion and they are in an unimpeachable position to exercise that discretion however they want to. That's a very dangerous situation. It's a slippery slope, and it usually leads to some kind of impingement on someone's rights somewhere. And that's a dangerous position to be in as well. So my article was about remembering that we do want our governments to act fast, and we do want them to respond to crisis very quickly. And all of those things that we want them to do. But that's not a reason to sacrifice the rule of law.
Very well said. And hopefully, people will go and read the article, that we have on our website. How can people get in touch with LexisNexis if they need assistance? I know if you have subscription to LexisNexis, that's obviously one way. But for those who really don't have the subscription, how are you able to, provide help to them? And if they need access to you, to LexisNexis, how would they go about doing that?
Well, the easiest and quickest way is online. Of course, we are one of the biggest online presences in the world, if that's a word, and so it's very easy to look us up. Of course, we have a huge team of sales representatives and customer service representatives who are there, who know what is available and what can be done. As I said, we've published the COVID-19 resources online, freely available for folks to look it up. Again, it's there, it's available. So, we can be contacted all of the various different ways. And, one of the things that we have tried very hard to do is to really kind of think about the difficulties that our customers would be facing, to think about the sort of the issues, and to try to deliver focused help where we can. And again, it comes back to what I think is a strong philosophy. Lexis is best when it takes what it's good at and it deploys those skills and resources to help people. And that's really how we've responded to this crisis.
Ian, thank you so much for your time. I know we're in a different time zone, and really appreciate you being here. And keep safe, be healthy, and look forward to seeing you at one of our meetings, whenever that will be.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. This is recorded, so I'll be editing and sending it up on our website by tomorrow, hopefully.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds
Hope it was what you wanted.
Yes, it is. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys very
Thanks,
much.
Neptune.
Yes,
Bye.
Ian.
Bye.